How's it going, guys? Welcome to my channel. It's been a long time since I did a book review, and I'm getting a little bit of cabin fever because of the coronavirus. I'm locked inside, but luckily, that's allowed me to find a lot more time to read. So while I've been locked in the house a couple days, I read Nathaniel by John Saul. Now, let me start by saying John Saul, to my knowledge, is a pretty obscure author in 2020. I don't know anybody my age who's read it. His book was recommended to me by the lady who owns the secondhand bookstore in my hometown. And I've read one John Saul book before this. It was the first book he ever wrote. It's called Suffer the Children. I don't remember much about it, but I read it about 6 years ago, and I just remember it was like horrifying, grotesque story. So when the lady at the bookstore recommended this book to me, I just said, what the heck, I'll give it a try. I'll give John Saul another shot. So I read this, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I was just expecting a ghost story, and I thought it was pretty good overall. I'd rate it about 3 out of 5 stars, but let's get into the plot. So this book is basically about this kid and his mom, and the kid's father dies. He falls off a hayloft and falls into a bale of hay or something like that and gets impaled by a pitchfork. And so the story basically starts off with the kid and his mom moving to their to the kid's dad's hometown in a place called Prairie Bend, and they're living with his grandfather and his grandmother. Now, as the story progresses, the mom finds out a lot about her husband that she didn't know before he died. Like, for instance, he had a sister, and she didn't know anything about his past or his family. She never met them before. He never talked about his family much. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding that whole thing. And there's this ghost story around the little town of Prairie Bend about this kid named Nathaniel. And I don't really want to get into it because that might get into spoiler territory. But basically, the son starts hearing voices. And early in the novel, I think it's within the first 100 pages or so, he encounters Nathaniel. And that's basically where the story takes off. And they start uncovering a lot of stuff that has been buried for decades. So overall, I did enjoy the novel. I thought it was a decent read, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody. Just because I thought the story was too slow of a burn for me. Like, the story's only 343 pages long. I thought it could easily have been 200 and I would have been satisfied. I just think I mean, this might be a little pretentious to say, like, what do I know about writing books, but I definitely think John Saul needed an editor with this book. There's so much that could have been cut out, so much that shouldn't have been prolonged, because throughout the book, I just got bored over and over again, and, like, the story didn't really pick up or pay off until the last 30 pages, and even by the time I finished the novel, there's still some things that didn't make sense, some things that didn't connect, some things that weren't explained very well. So those are my only frustrations with the novel. Yeah, overall I thought it was pretty good. I guess lastly, for some pros, I would say I really enjoyed the characters, especially the protagonist, Michael. I really liked his grandfather. I really liked the old man who lived in a house next to the main character and his mother. His name's slipping my mind right now, but I like that character. So I thought the characters were pretty good, even though they weren't, like, amazingly developed. Lastly, I thought the dialogue was really good. John Saul did a great job of breaking up the monotony of dialogue and whatnot. So I thought he did a pretty good job of that. And I don't know if I'm going to be reading any John Saul anytime soon, but this book was worth a shot. And like I said, rated about 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I love horror, and I've read a ton of Stephen King. read The Troop by Nick Cutter. I've read a little bit of John Saul. And I'm starting to get into like authors like Jack Ketchum, Bentley Little, Dean Koontz. So if you guys have any horror book recommendations, please send them my way in the comments. And I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully I'll be making more book reviews since I have a lot of time now on my hands and a lot more free time to read. So stay tuned for more book reviews and hope to hear from some of you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.